I noticed that with like solving puzzles, that it never really follows a pattern that the best player is necessarily the best problem solver.
That's true.
Because I also like I noticed this personally, but also I spoke to a lot of trainers that I worked with, and I also saw this from Magnus said this recently.
Hmm.
He said I've never been that good at solving puzzles, and maybe that's a motivation thing. But I worked with Mickey Adams once, and he refused to solve them. That you reminded me of that when you said that like
Uh,
a lot of players didn't like complete the homework. He just refused. Straight was like, I will not solve any studies, and uh, and that was kind of funny. But
But
yeah,
why? Why did he refuse them?
I think it's just like he didn't want to put the mental effort into doing it. Like
Mm.
at
it's a
some point
lot
you're like,
different too than like in a chess game. You're not told when you have like a winning combination or anything. And puzzles, maybe in some sense, it's not the most authentic training experience where
it's not as
like you,
practical. Yeah.
yeah, like
I
you know
feel
what
it
you're
helps a
looking
lot.
for.
Now, I'm thinking that maybe Mickey was not seeing himself as that much of a competitive player, more like he was looking to basically help you in your preparation.
Yeah.
Maybe he didn't feel like
Because
that's his role within the team, or
yeah, I mean, when you've played like top chess for 30 years, probably at some point you're like, okay, I've done all of that. I did that when I was 10 years old and 20 years old, and now that I'm 50, I'm done with that. I'm never doing it again.
that's
So
basically our experience. I think it was in Miami, and we were trying to like feed you some really difficult
I was
end
like, no.
games. And you were just like, no, I'm not doing this. I used to do that when I was 10 years of age, and I'm not doing this anymore.
But some players like they love puzzle solving. I was at a cafe the other day with a few players, and Maurice walks in, and he was telling the story about how he has this like very difficult problem that he gave to some top players that took like hours, if not days, to solve. And he showed us like a screenshot of the position on his phone, and Ray Robson was with us, and for like the next maybe 15 to 20 minutes, Ray was just like like we were still having some conversation, talking about the event and everything. But Ray was like clearly like trying to think of the solution to the puzzle. And then 20 minutes later, like Ray like rattles off this line that was like
Was it
on the right
involving the
track.
king side attack and there was like an H file that was opening up? And white also had like some slightly weak.
I have the position somewhere. It
Okay.
starts with Queen E1.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
position.
Okay.
So there was like a period where
Phew.
Maurice was sending me every single because he
Uh,
composes, right? Composes studies, and he was sending me like every position that he composed or that he was interested in.
uh-huh.
And I remember he was so excited about this one, and it is like a super interesting position. And as I was so solving it, he was coming up with some new details about like how to make it a bit more beautiful or like finesse it somewhat. But yeah, you know Ray well, right?
Oh yeah, of
He's
course.
extremely good at like like he was a Puzzle Rush champion
Puzzle
for
Battle World
yeah,
Champion
yeah,
2 or 3 years in a row.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised when you mentioned Ray because I know that he's like super good at that stuff.
Yeah, like I hang out with him. I have meals with him regular basis, and like, if you give him a puzzle during a meal, like he'll that's what's going to be on his mind. And yeah, he's super talented when it comes to solving. And like he was probably the one at Webster that like was the best in terms of just solving all the homework and puzzles that we were given.
I feel bad about actually losing Ray because we almost got him at UT
Mm.
Dallas.
Oh wow.
He came to play a tournament. I remember it was the only game that I actually beat him. It was this invitational
Hmm.
organized by UT Dallas. I played with him for the first time with the white pieces. I think we had a pretty complex middle game battle, and then I was worse. But then somehow he made a mistake, and I ended up winning. That was my only victory against him, and we played like 8 times. After that, he just
Hmm.
killed me every single
Wow.
game that we played. But I remember that we were having our hopes high that he's going to join the program. But then 1 week later, we found out that he actually followed Susan at, I think was it Webster or Texas Tech at
I
that
think at the
point?
time it was still probably Texas Tech, but
Might
of
have
course
been
he
Texas
traveled
Tech,
with
and
them.
then they went to Webster. But yeah, he was definitely a big miss. And speaking of Ray, also, and of this type of players that get obsessed with whatever chess games or chess problems you show them, and they just obsess over trying to find the solution. I was never that way. you show me a position, I'm going to try to solve it for a little bit. Then if we go on to have lunch, I'm not going to be thinking about that. How would you guys assess, I guess, yourselves and your personality? Do you obsess over that?
I it depends. I can, but it really depends on my mood.
Mm.
But sometimes I will obsess over a position. More so if it occurs in my games and I'm like trying to figure it out. If it's a study, I see the beauty in studies, but not the same way that like some players like are just so obsessed with like beauty in studies, right? And they end up getting into compositions. Like Jan Timman is a good example, right? He was like, one of the best players in the world of his time, multiple time candidate, but also he was really a really good is a really good composer of chess studies. Um, so I think that's like a different quality than just chess playing. You also need to have like the passion for that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel excluded because Maurice never sent me any studies.
Because he knows you wouldn't solve them.
Maybe that's why. Maurice, if you are listening to this, please send me some studies. I know Alejandro is always bragging about receiving a lot of studies from Maurice. I feel excluded.
I'm sorry about
How
that.
about yourself? Did he send you any studies, Eric?
No, no, the first study I saw from his was this other day at cafe. So, but I really need to be in the mindset to like work on a position. It's not something like if I'm at a casual meal, I'm gonna like devote my heart into. But I was recently in Abu Dhabi for this big Masters tournament, and I had a few meals with Jobava,
Mm-hmm.
and him and Ray were at our table, and they were like really digging into this. There's this chess-based India video where they're showing like these really beautiful studies, and Jobava was like all about it. He like he's so passionate about chess, and like once he found the solution, he wanted to like show everyone at our
He's
table.
obsessed.
And
Yeah.
yeah, but it's a quality that I really admire because it just goes to show how much like intensity and passion you can have for the game. So
Did he make you any deals or like try to make you any deals? Because
deals.
whenever I like meet Baadur
Uh-huh.
Jobava, he uh he always has some sort of deal that he wants to make. And the
Ooh,
last one was if you win this tournament, you will dye your hair the same color that my hair is. And at the time it was pink.
that sounds amazing. Did you
And
take him up on that?
I didn't take him up, but
Uh,
Maxime did.
uh-huh.
So if you saw Maxime with pink hair at some
Ah,
point,
that's okay. I
That's
he
saw
not
the
does.
there.
picture. I don't know the
Huh?
No, that
backstory
was a
though.
there from Jabava. He
Yeah,
lost.
yeah, he made some sort of deal with Maxime, a similar one. I think it was when he won the World Blitz Championship.
Uh-huh.
He was like, if you win the World Blitz Championship, dye your hair pink, and he did, and Maxime upheld his end of the bargain. But
Wow.
he approached me in a restroom during one of the games, and I was like, I can't think about this right now. It's too crucial of a decision, you know? So I just ended up um, not taking the deal.
Mm-hmm.
What was the
Otherwise,
deal?
well, it was like if you qualify for the candidates from the Grand Swiss, then, and I ended up qualifying, so I would have had pink hair.